Hey everybody, we're back here for Entertainment Getaway TV. This is a YouTube channel that features musicians, authors, comedians, wrestlers, Hollywood actors. And right now before me is a man named Len Shaffer, and he is a piano player and songwriter and has a solo album that right away we're going to jump into promoting. This is on YouTube and, am I right, Spotify?
Yes, and all the other streaming services, I believe, as well.
Cool, let's get a close-up of that. There's Lynn, and Extraordinary is available now. That's Lynn Shaffer. So let the people know when these songs were recorded, at what studio, with who, and yeah, let the world know about you, man.
Okay, well, first of all, you can also go to my website, which is lenshaffer.com. And when you go there, you can see a whole bunch about the recording, who I recorded it with, where I recorded it. I've recorded it basically in bits and pieces over about a 30-year period. It's kind of like a musical autobiography. So there are 24 songs on there covering a wide variety of styles. I have an a cappella doo-wop song. I was actually in an a cappella doo-wop group called the Starry Nights with a K, and I was in that for 4 years, and I was driving home from practice one day, and I said, or from rehearsal, whatever you want to call it, and I thought, let me see if I can write a song for the band, or for the group. And the entire song came to me on the way home. I was very inspired, and so that's on there. It's called What You Doin'. There's also a blues song that I wrote at work when I was stuck with doing paperwork, and it's called The Filing Blues. I was very inspired and wrote that also in about half an hour of work. There are a lot of kind of more mellow songs. There are some from my old bands in the 80s and early 90s. So that's more like 80s rock. I've got some instrumental stuff. I've got kind of a more jazzy thing. So if you don't like one thing, you might like the next.
That's great. I like variety personally, for everything from funk to jazz, ska, and heavy metal, and punk rock. So name these bands that you were in prior to becoming a solo artist.
Well, I was in two different bands. The first one was called Invasion with a Z, kind of a very 80s name. And then the second band I was in, we went through various names. Our final name was OCD, which in our case stood for Obsessive Compulsive Disorder, because our lead singer worked in a mental ward at a hospital, so it seemed like an appropriate name for the band. I actually preferred one of our earlier names, which was Nine Lives. I thought that was a great name, but one of the other band members didn't like it. He said it was too much like cat food. So, but anyway,
I'm with you on that. I'd go with the Nine Lives. It's got a nice ring to it, man.
Yeah.
So, how would you describe the sound of your bands? Was it new wave, pop, or rock, or all of it?
All I can say is we got reviewed a couple of different times, and once we were compared to Fine Young Cannibals, and another time we were compared to REM. So that kind of gives you a pretty good idea of what we were like. And there are 4, or maybe it might even be 5 or 6 songs from my bands on the album, but there are more songs on my website. So if you go to lenshaffer.com, you can also see a bunch of pictures of my bands, as well as a list of things that I've done in the acting side, because I'm an actor as well.
Let's get into that, because you had mentioned that to me, and we cover a lot of Hollywood actors on this show, and it's just, to me, music will always be my number one, but movies, film, and cinema will be just a very close second. So let's dive into that, your time in the acting world and what you did, and where people could see clips of you and whatnot. So
yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of different things in acting over many years. My first thing actually in acting was an opera. When I was 9 years old, I was in an opera at the University of Kansas, which is where I ended up going to college as well. But I was in La Boheme. I played one of the street urchins and had one solo line, and that was very exciting in front of 1,100 people there. My first play I actually did was in high school, The Man of La Mancha. And about half the shows I've done over the years have been musicals, but I've also done a number of non-musicals, and including some shows I really love, like Inherit the Wind. I really love doing that one. Same Time Next Year is another one of my favorites that I was really excited to be in. I've done a lot of my favorite musicals, including Oklahoma and South Pacific, and They're Playing Our Song, which is an old show from the 70s, which I really loved. I've worked in various theaters all around the Bay Area. I was in several long-running shows in San Francisco. One was called Shopping the Musical. Another one was called Are We Almost There, about traveling. All directed and written by the same guy, a brilliant man named Morris Bobrow. And several of those shows played for many years at the Shelton Theater right off Union Square in San Francisco. And I was in a few of them for like a couple of years. So that was really fun.
That's something to be proud of.
Yeah.
I really admire your passion and drive for the arts, man. I mean, I love people that cross over from music to acting and, writing, directing, and all of that, man. That's you should be so proud of your accomplishments.
Thank you. Thank you. It's funny, when you're in it, you're just kind of doing it. But every once in a while, I look back and go, wow, I've done a lot of different things. Actually, I'll tell you one of my favorite things I did, which scared the bejesus out of me, was I had done a show in Half Moon Bay, or I'm sorry, in Pacifica. I had done a show there, and in the course of doing that show, that was Inherit the Wind, which I mentioned earlier, I was speaking to someone and he said, yeah, I'm going to be doing this musical next year called Celebration, which I had actually done in college. Celebration is by the same people who wrote The Fantastics. And he said, I might need a music director. Would you be interested in that? And I said, would that involve playing piano for it? He said, yes. And I said, yeah, maybe I'll do it, So I'd kind of forgotten about it. About a year later, he reaches out to me. And somehow, in my insanity, having never played a musical before, I decided, all right, I'll give it a shot. Scariest thing I've ever done in my life. I practiced 6 hours a day for about 4 months straight to get it down. Because although I've played a lot of piano, it's mostly been pop stuff. I grew up with some classical, but the guys who wrote The Fantastics, and their names are escaping me at the moment, but they write really, really difficult stuff. And somehow I managed to survive that and played that musical, and it's my proudest accomplishment in show business.
Nice. So we have a lot of similarities in common with music. We both love and adore female vocalists. So I have to bring that up to you. For me, it's Luscious Jackson, Von Iva, the B-52s, Pat Benatar, Stevie Nicks, everything Suzanne Vega to the Cocteau Twins. Right. So give us your list of female vocalists and solo artists, bands that inspire you. The Cranberries is one of them, right?
Absolutely. One of my all-time favorite bands, and what a tragic loss of Dolores Riordan. Way too young, I believe 50 years old when she died. So sad. And I'm so sad I never got to see them in concert. Some of the ones you mentioned, B-52s, of course, absolutely fantastic. Suzanne Vega, great. I consider the greatest female rock voice of all time to be Ann Wilson of Heart. And
thank you. She deserves so much credit and then some. Ann is a true legend. Yeah. Recently collaborated with the band Disturbed from Chicago, the metal band.
Interesting.
Which to hear Ann on anything is a blessing, because she's quite talented and covers Zeppelin really well, aside from her original stuff.
Yeah, I was just about to mention they did Stairway to Heaven at the Kennedy Center, and Robert Plant was there, and he had like tears going down because Ann Wilson was so amazing on it.
Wow.
It's well worth checking out. People should absolutely look it up on YouTube or wherever and try to find that clip, because it is really spectacular, as you would expect from Ann Wilson.
Yeah.
And so other people, I grew up listening to the Carpenters. That voice, I consider Ann Wilson the greatest female rock voice, or I should say maybe the greatest rock voice. The greatest voice of all time to me is Karen Carpenter. And I always thought, like, she could sing the phone book and I would be just melting from that amazing voice.
Right.
And speaking of another person we lost way too soon, of course. But so I'm trying to think who else. There's one that I mentioned to you before, David, and that was Tish Hinojosa, and that's spelled Hinojosa. And she's like a mix of Mexican and folk and country, and just a spectacular voice, a wonderful songwriter. Definitely should be checking her out.
Look up on YouTube all these artists, because we bring up this kind of stuff and hoping you can find a wonderful gem that you may have not heard and want to spread the word to other people. So this is important. So, we can just name a few more. There's Sarah McLachlan, Suzanne Vega, Enigma, right? Yaz. The list goes on and on.
Oh, and I've got one other one to mention, too. Vienna Teng, and it's Teng, Vienna, as in the city in Austria. And she, my sister actually wrote the book and lyrics to a musical called The Fourth Messenger, and Vienna is the one who wrote the music to it. And so the music in The Fourth Messenger is great. You can find that on thefourthmessenger.com. But Vienna's own stuff is really, really beautiful. She's a classically trained pianist, and her piano playing is breathtaking. Sometimes you can really hear that classical influence, but sometimes she also does some other stuff. She has a kind of rap song called the Grandmother Song, which is about things that her grandmother said to her about how she should not be doing music and should settle down and find a man, and she's getting too old to get married and all that. So she has a variety, but she's definitely another person to check out.
Nice, nice. And outside of female artists, singers, songwriters, and what other bands would you say that you love and adore and that inspire you as a musician?
Well, continuing briefly along the line of female singers, my favorite group perhaps of all time is the Indigo Girls, who I think, great voices, beautiful harmony. I always think of them as like the female Simon and Garfunkel. And their lyrics are, to me, the greatest lyrics ever. I mean, just so inspiring. They've inspired some of my lyrics, the way that they just weave poetry and depth and so much meaning into their songs. As far as other bands, I am definitely a child of the 70s, and Homer Simpson had the great line that everyone knows that rock music was perfected in the 70s. Nice. I like so many different groups from the 70s, whether it be the Eagles or Chicago or the Commodores or Earth, Wind and Fire or Boston. Greatest album of all time, the first Boston album.
What a singer he was, Brad Delp, right?
Oh man, what a sad loss, another sad loss.
We also agree on the greatness and the awesomeness of Styx,
Yes.
who I feel is like one of the greatest bands with the greatest songs of all time.
Yeah. The greatest concert I ever saw was Styx at the Concord Pavilion.
Wow.
And they did kind of like, it was almost like a combination of a rock concert and a musical theater production, because they had different costumes and sets, and it was absolutely amazing. I've never seen anything else like it in terms of a rock concert.
Right on. Well, let's get into hearing a couple of your songs, and the ones you play, maybe give us like a 30-second thing, and then give us some feedback on what inspired you to write that song, and then people can just hear a little sample and then go to your website to hear the rest.
Sounds great.
So let's do that. And take two, back with Len Shaffer for the next song. What's the title of this one?
This one is called This Time Around. I was in a show in Pacifica. Actually, it was Inherit the Wind. We keep coming back to that show. And one of the women in the show I fell really hard for, and we did go on a date, but it didn't quite work out. But I did write this song about her, and I don't think she's ever known that I actually wrote this song about her, which is part of the beautiful tragedy of it, I guess. So I think a lot of people will be able to relate to this.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. For sure. Wow. Amazing. Your vocal tone and delivery is phenomenal, man. I mean, these songs deserve a lot more attention, and hopefully with this interview, the word's going to get out. Because, with all of us artists, that we're usually appreciated when we're no longer here.
Right.
So, and your piano reminds me of many greats like Elton John and Dennis DeYoung of Styx.
You're talking my language.
I mean,
Thank you very much.
Your piano is just it cuts through in the best way.
Yeah,
you just have
Elton's
to sell that.
Absolutely one of my idols.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big Elton and Bernie fan, huh?
Absolutely.
That's great, man.
Absolutely.
So yeah, give us one more, Len, and
Sure.
we'll wrap this interview up. And let's check out one more from the piano player, songwriter, and vocalist Len Shaffer. And here we are back with Len. Len Shaffer, and he's going to play you some samples of his music here.
Detail-oriented file and blue.
So what's behind that song, the title of it, and what do you remember about recording that song and what it's about to you?
So that is called The Filing Blues, and that is the song I mentioned earlier that I wrote at work when I was sick and tired of having to file things, basically. Pretty obvious. And I recorded that, and boy, I'm totally spacing on the studio that I recorded it at, but it was in Oakland, and that was in 2019 that I recorded that. I had actually recorded the piano part years earlier at a different studio, but I recorded the vocals and all the other instruments in 2019, and got some great other instrumentalists and vocalists with me to do that song.
Great, great. Let's hear another sample of another one that's one of your favorites. And here we are back with Len Shaffer, giving you another sample of his awesome solo record. Yeah, go ahead and let the public have it, man.
Okay, so this song is called It's Time to Stand Up, and in parentheses, for love and equality. It's my marriage equality song, and I actually wrote it back in 2006. There was a ruling by the, it's not called the Supreme Court of New York, but whatever their top court is, they ruled against marriage equality, saying that something, you know, the usual bullshit about raising children and all that crap. So it really pissed me off, and I wrote this song, and I ended up actually doing a marriage equality fundraiser in 2010, and I used this song in there. Anyway, here's a portion of it.
It's time to stand up for love and equality. It's time to join up and celebrate love. Let me tell you, some are misguided in the name of tradition. Yes, they are. In America, freedom means we all have rights. We're talking gay, bi, wanna marry our soulmate. Hard to find the one to love. Nothing to be guilty of. No one's been appointed who should tell the whole world what to do. Acrimony and division are not the purpose of religion.
That's great, man. Really great talking to you, Lynn. Any last words you want to add to the internet land of everybody in the interwebs and online? You gave them the website, you know, you got samples of your songs. We dove into your acting world and you doing those live plays and stuff. So yeah, take it away.
Well, a couple more things. First of all, if you do want to see one of the movies that I've been in, I haven't been in many movies, but I've been in a few small ones. And there was one that played at the New York International Film Festival, and that was called Cult. And you can find that if you go to smeraproductions.com. That's S-M-E-R-A Productions.com, and look for the movie Cult, and I have a pretty good part in that. So that's one thing. And I'll leave you with the line that I always say about my album when I'm trying to promote it. If you like it, tell your friends. If you hate it, tell your enemies. But either way, tell somebody.
That's awesome, man. Great last words, Len. Len Shaffer, everybody, from Emeryville, California, and we're doing this interview in Emeryville, California, and it was great having you on as a guest, man. Everybody has their musical story and journey, and I just admire anybody that has the passion and the drive and just the love to do what they do, and it inspires many of us. And everybody check out his music and his movie work and get on board. You know, this channel is really to promote artists who deserve a spotlight, who don't get enough exposure. And we'll leave it at that. But thank you, Len.
Thank you, David.
Okay.